right, welcome to another Israel update. My name is Marco, and I'm here with Jacob Prash. Jacob, how are you this morning?
Hanging in there, trusting the Lord, looking forward to his return.
Amen. And I have also our dear brother Elon from Israel, Moriel Israel. Elon, how are you this evening? It's already Saturday,
Uh,
sorry, Friday
yeah,
evening, almost
yes,
Saturday
it's already
in Israel.
Shabbat here. Yes, I'm okay. It's, well, yeah, things are okay. Warm, but all right.
All right, very good. Well, thank you for joining us. We got about 20 some minutes, so we want to take advantage of as much as we can of what's going on in Israel. So we're going to ask you to, I'm going to turn it over to you. We'll ask you some questions and then we'll let you go back to bed.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. We've had some really good videos the last few times you've been with us, so we're excited to continue Israel update. We heard some good things from people that watched the episode. So thank you for being with us.
Okay, these aren't always the biggest stories, but they're just from the Israeli media. So you get a slightly different uh, what's the word, basket of items. But I thought that some of them are very interesting. Well, this is the first one, and this is, the you might know of Arad down in the south of the country in the Negev, and it's well the Arad mayor has called to ban the sale of the newspaper Haaretz because he says it perpetuates a blood libel. So, I mean, in one sense, he's correct. It's an awful newspaper, but this is uh, quite firm, really. I don't know if our audience is familiar with what Haaretz is. Haaretz is when I say it's an extremely left-wing newspaper to the point of insanity. It's somewhat left of the Guardian in the UK. Imagine the Guardian. You know what a crazy rag that is.
Oh
An
yeah, for
absolute
sure.
communist, Marxist, woke, all the nonsense. Well, it is very like that.
Who runs it?
I don't know. It doesn't have a very large circulation now because it really is. I mean, it's anti-Israel almost. Well, yes, it is. It's um, and I mean, what the mayor was saying here, he says that I mean, Haaretz is often very anti, even the IDF and stuff. The mayor has accused it, saying here, the defaming Haaretz is serving the terrorists after labeling the bloodthirsty Nukhba murderers who slaughtered babies, raped and shot young girls, and murdered the women and elderly. It labels them as freedom fighters. It sounds like
I mean, this
almost
is a
like.
Jewish newspaper.
Well, you would th it's supposed to be, yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's like a print version of Al Jazeera or something.
I wouldn't be
Anyway,
surprised if they're being funded by them, right?
oh, yeah. I mean, it's insanity. It's the self-hating kind of anti-Zionist, It's weird stuff.
Jacob, are
But
you aware of that newspaper, right?
oh,
Yep.
Yep.
They've been around a
Yedioth
while.
Aharonot, yes.
yeah. I mean, I'm not. It's left of Yediot Achronot, another paper, which is also a
Yes.
bit somewhat left. But Haaretz is really off the scale. It's
Haaretz is extremely, it's more left wing than the New York Times.
Oh
yeah,
man, that's out there now.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, really, if you want something,
It's like
to
the
use in
Guardian.
your,
It's like the Guardian in England. That's how I would compare it.
yeah, I would even put it a bit more left of that actually. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't have a very large circulation now. I don't think really. And it's much cheaper to buy Charmin Ultra or something if you want something useful. Um, but it's awful paper. But it's. I've never seen it being banned like this before. So this mayor also says something like that this Haaretz is inventing a new blood libel against IDF soldiers, providing anti-Semitic material for the world with all of its fabrications. Israel's enemies are spreading Haaretz's slander across the globe. I wish upon them the same fate as the biblical spies who slandered the land of Israel. Heaven will repay them accordingly. We will ban the entry of this newspaper, which aids terrorists into the city of Arad. Wow.
Are there many newspapers like that, Andy, that are
Uh,
are like
I
left
think
wing like that.
that is the worst.
That is the worst.
You've got
Okay.
Yediot Achronot, which is that's leftish and often publishes nonsense, but the more kind of main in the middle, probably it would be Israel Hayom, and that's a free newspaper, and it's
Yeah.
more centrist, and it's more sane. It's not perfect. Um, but I've noticed that the Jerusalem Post has gone a bit weird. I mean, you've got some really weird stuff appearing in the. I don't know if they're trying to appeal more to the left or something, but the Jerusalem Post has gone off the boil, really
Yeah, it
has.
used to be centrist, then it went to the right, now it's gone center again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there've been some awful articles put out, but I stopped subscribing to their news feed. I thought, oh, some of the stuff was just sick,
You
you
know,
know.
even with the war, Elon, even with the war and even with the attacks on Israel, obviously from Iran, they're still putting out this stuff. It's just bizarre in a
Well,
country
there are
that's in
some
a war.
weird
Yeah.
delusional people in every, I mean, delusional wacko leftists, even in Israel. I mean, they caused all the problems with the anti-BB protests and
Yeah, I was
everything.
gonna say they're
I'm
pretty
sure,
much
yeah.
anti-BB, right? Yeah.
I mean, these people are not right in the head. They are ideologically diseased, I think. And it's self-destructive in the end. But
Yes,
and this kind of ties in really with there have been three incidents or three at least three reports I've seen now of couples being arrested for espionage on behalf of Iran.
yes,
Israeli couples. There's one couple in Ranana, which is a kind of trendy upmarket area, I think close to Tel Aviv. There was another one, a Ben Gurion University student, but now this was an Arab, not an Israeli, not a Jewish Israeli. It was an Arab Israeli from a village just, I think, Deir al-Assad is right next to Carmiel, actually. But he was a student at Ben Gurion University. And the other one was a couple in Tiberias,
yes.
Hmm.
who'd been also arrested. They were contacting Iranian agents via Telegram, the app Telegram,
Yes,
You know, Elon, this is I think we brought it up on catching up a couple of weeks ago where people were being arrested for this. It was sort of like Iran's new espionage tactics to contact people on Telegram or WhatsApp and just send
Yes,
random messages, do this, do that, sort of like take a picture of this, take a picture of that. They were giving directions and then they were to do it. And I think they even were standing outside or figuring out where what's his name? Neftali. Yeah, Neftali Bennett lived, where Kotz lived,
yes,
and just trying
yes.
to bring some information and send information to what it became known as they were basically spies for Iran.
Yes, yeah, this is what it says. It makes you. I suspect, though, apart from the Arab guy who was from the Deir al-Assad, the it looks like for example, the report on this couple in Tiberias, it says the Iranian agents initially introduced themselves to this couple as left-wing Kaplanists and asked the defendants to perform certain tasks, and whatever. And they were getting paid for this, but it makes you think that uh, possibly, the ones from near the Tel Aviv area. I wonder if they were all Haaretz readers.
I wouldn't be
They must
surprised.
be. Uh, yeah, I mean, to actually do that kind of thing, usually they're extreme leftists that do this kind of thing. I mean, it's appalling actually, and I hope they spend a long time behind bars for that. And but I mean, Tiberias is a religious town on the whole. It's very religious. I mean, I don't know. It's not impossible. It's hard to tell, because they didn't give any more details about the whether this couple were religious or not. On the whole, you wouldn't get religion. Well, there are some ultra-Orthodox cults like the Outre Carter or something that you might think would get involved with something like that, but it doesn't say. But Tiberias is more of a religious town, whereas Tel Aviv and that around there, it's all more to the left.
Interesting.
But
Yeah. I mean, I've been to Tiberias. We
yeah,
stayed
they
there
get the books. Yeah.
for a few days. I didn't know there were
Yes.
very religious, but I didn't know there were more leftists. Is that what you're
Oh
saying?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
No, no, no. There might be some leftists in there, or they
Oh,
might be.
my
It,
left.
you
Okay.
know, it's. Yeah, I mean, it's majority religious Tiberias, but you might get some people because it's a cheap place to live.
Oh, I
You
got
know,
you.
if you haven't got a load of money and you want, and you're a new immigrant or something, Tiberias isn't a bad place to go because there's a lot of older housing nearer the lake and everything it's quite cheap. For example, you can get a reasonable apartment there for about 1,500 shekels a month renting.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
that's very cheap compared with Nahari. You probably pay twice that
That
at
is
least.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, there's a lot of old housing stock in Tiberias. The newer stuff is higher up the hill now. All the new development, the new things, you know, the the on the whole, the poorer areas are closer to the lake, and the older houses. So they're building up, and the posh stuff is on the hillside now. So that's two things here, and here's another interesting little story. This appeared in something called World Sound Journalism Grounded in Facts and Biblical Truth. I just came across this as a link on from X, and it says evangelicals beware as the UN official and a UN official. This is Francesca All Diseased. The UN official targets Christian groups over their support for Israel. They're trying to link now Christian support with Israel in with war crimes and crimes against humanity. So whether they'll get away with it, I don't know.
That is
But
interesting.
it's yes, it is, isn't it? It
Yeah.
says, Francesca Albanese, the UN official with the special rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the Palestinian territories, has become notorious in her hostility to Israel and support of Hamas narratives. Now she is targeting two small Christian Zionist groups for their support of the Jewish state. She has written letters to these groups accusing them of participation in war crimes and crimes against humanity, gross violations of human rights, and contributing to the denial of the Palestinian right to self-determination. I mean, it's a bit flimsy what she's trying to do. There's no real solid legal basis to it, but what you start the lie rolling, and before long.
I think there'll be enough
Um,
people, Elon, that would actually share that sentiment, wouldn't they?
yes, that's it. That's actually yeah. When you look at the climate of things in the West now, how it's increasingly becoming anti-Jewish. You saw that from the Glastonbury Festival. I mean, and it's becoming fashionable to be anti-Semitic, um, which is very disturbing. It really is that you've got popular anti-Semitism, like you had in Nazi Germany in the 30s. It's becoming fashionable, and that is very disturbing. But as you've often observed historically, the two things tend to go together. Where you have anti-Semitism, usually you've always got you know anti-Christian feeling that goes with it. At least
Absolutely.
opposite hatred of biblical Christianity, or anyway.
No, I often said in over the last year or so, when you see the here in America, you see the what would they call the right wing, extreme wing, whatever they want to call it, right? Christian nationalists
Mm.
turning more and more anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, anti-Jew, yet claiming to be Christian, claiming to love Christ, and but become very hostile toward those who don't agree with them in regards to Israel, the promised land in the future for Israel. They become hostile to them. And I often said it might be that the persecution will come to the believers from other set of so-called believers or whatever you want to call them over the issue of Israel and the Jews in the last days.
I think that will be one of the things. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
slowly
It,
approaching. And they would
yes.
have the some kind of political mechanisms to do it.
Yeah, you could really see it, couldn't you? And certainly with in Europe, I think though that seems to be more linked with Islamic anti-Semitism. But in perhaps in the US, it might be more linked with the kind of right-wing thinking that comes from people like Candace Owens.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people like that, and although she's not as popular as she used to be, but she does still garner some influence, at least to a certain degree of another. But there are people that even within Congress that would feel somewhat of an isolationist position, meaning that no real help to Israel, no real help to getting involved with Israel, and that comes along with it too. It's both political and spiritual at the same time.
Yes. So that's concerning. Um, so that's here's a weird story. This one. This is I've got two more things after this, and it's short things. But this is very odd. There was a very nasty accident. Put some little child was killed, knocked down by a car or something a week or so ago, and it's a 4-year-old girl. And at her funeral, the rabbi said, and it quotes the headline here. It says, "This is a rabbi in Beit Shemesh, which is just outside of Jerusalem. It's a very religious town. The rabbi claims the girl was killed because of draft orders. Now, of course, you know that there's this whole controversy over here with, the drafting of yeshiva students. This,
Yes, yeah,
Orthodox youth that are, training in. They've had exemptions for many years, but it's now becoming a
yeah, that's what,
necessity, really, that
right.
that they.
Yeah.
And during the funeral here, as she was this little girl, she's only 4 years old, and one of the rabbis that was giving the eulogy, he linked the tragedy of this girl to the draft orders being sent to yeshiva students, and this is a quotation. It says, "So many tragedies," he says. "Obviously, we must strengthen our faith. We hear that today 54,000 draft orders are issued to yeshiva students. This is such a guilty act. Who knows if this sacrifice didn't come to atone a little?" End quote. So he's presenting the death of this child as some kind of atonement for the sin of calling up, these Torah students and to army service. That is
Oh,
just
that is
seriously weird, isn't it?
that is this. Yeah, that. Oh man, bizarre,
Yeah,
despicable.
that's just bizarre, isn't it?
That's becoming a big issue, isn't it, Elon, in the Knesset with
Yeah,
the trying to make a deal again with the in the Knesset to try to get the if they want the support of the religious party, then this is on the table. They need to figure out what to do
yeah,
with the draft orders.
yeah. This is going to burn on for some time, but I I think in the end that it will become normative that many of these um, yeshiva students will end up serving. I think the pressure for it will become irresistible in the end because the religious community, or at least the ultra Orthodox, have been obviously pushing against this for years. But I think it's inevitable that it will happen. That they won't, the exemption will slowly be removed.
Mm,
Um, because there just isn't enough young men to go round otherwise, and
yeah, I mean
the
it is
army
it is
needs more.
Yeah, it is strange, and I know Jacob's talked about this on catching up from time to time. The they riot, they have protests all the time. They want to make a deal. Look, it's 636 days since Israel's been at war, longest
Yeah.
war ever in the last since 1948. So
Yes.
it's incredible, but that is the sentiment. And well, let me ask you this: what is the average Israeli? What is their sentiment toward that?
Oh, they can't stand it. I remember one young chap. He was saying that once that they were in the coach on the way to the army base or something, and they saw a load of yeshiva students just hanging around somewhere. So they just wind the windows down and shouted to them in Hebrew, "Leeches, leeches!" Because they're regarded as parasitic. Because they get all these army exemptions and they don't really contribute a lot to society. They're continually on like government benefits, which the religious parties, extract from concessions from the government in order for their support in the coalition because of Israel's broken system
That's right.
uh, of proportional representation, and it's gone on for decades, and it really, I mean, to be honest, I mean, it has a nasty effect on a lot of Israelis. It jaundices their attitude towards the religious very much because
Hmm.
they see them as just that their leaders as con merchants and cynical exploiters of the rest of the population. Final thing here, interesting development. I mean, is there was a report here. This was in Israel Hayom about 4 to 5 days ago. And just recently, the army created a new division, and it has a specific task this time of filling in and strengthening Israel's defenses on the border with Jordan.
Hmm.
Because what's been reported is that it is suspected that the Iranian regime, if it survives, will wants to turn Jordan into a new platform for proxy attacks against Israel. Now, the Jordanian border, the border with Jordan, the eastern border of Israel, is the longest border, and it's for a long time. It's had, you've got smuggling and some infiltrations that come across the border. It's nothing like as bad as Gaza, with rocket. You don't get rockets and stuff being fired, but of course, Jordan has it's something like about 90% of their population is, quote Palestinians,
Right.
unquote.
Exactly. Yeah. That is true.
So it's a regime that, while at the moment it's friendly, with enough incentive and things being, if you've got people stirring, agents provocateurs stirring trouble up there, it could become difficult. So I mean, for a long time, there's been undermanned because even though it's not been a problem, a huge problem militarily, um, that situation could deteriorate if the Iranians are using agents to stir up trouble. So
Right.
they've created this new division to police that area. Yeah. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Especially with Jordan. I mean, since they represent large population of, what we call Palestinians, what they call Palestinians, and they've had
Yes.
riots there before. I mean, obviously they've had some really terrible things happen in Jordan. And,
Yes.
even their own government going after the Palestinians who were there in
Yes. The
the
Black
80s.
September thing. Yeah.
Right,
When
exactly.
they bombed a load of it. Yeah. Yeah. So it's but it's still a friend. And actually, I mean, they did help with shooting down some of the missiles and things as
They
well.
did. They did.
Well, I mean, the Jordanian monarchy, I think, or the regime, I think they know which side their bread's buttered on. And
They have
if you
deals, don't they?
understand
They
me,
have a water
yeah,
deal. Yeah,
yes, and we have on the whole, look, they're not our best friends, but they're not necessarily our enemies either. We had we had a functioning peace, and and cross-border, you can go into Jordan from Israel. You can drive into there. There's a special service they have that when you drive inside, that they give you they change your number plates for you if you're in an Israeli vehicle.
right.
That's so you don't get stoned or something if you drive to the wrong area and things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but yeah, so but we have a functioning, kind of peace and
Relationship.
cooperation with them. Yeah.
You think they're going to get into
And
the Abraham Accords?
I, I, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think it would benefit them greatly.
Right, more
You
economic
know,
stability,
oh
trading.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. If this Abraham Accord thing really turns into a trading bloc,
Because
um,
for the most part, it's maybe not a very poor country, but it is a poor country. Wouldn't they consider a poor country in terms of the Middle East?
Jordan, it's not the wealthiest. They have a lot that also it's very water starved.
Mm,
But greater cooperation might bring you know, more. We might possibly maybe a more generous export of water even to Jordan
yeah.
from because we have a very good desalination
Oh, probably the best in
program
the
here.
world. Probably the best in the world.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
our water bills here, in Nahariya are very low in Israel, are very low compared with the UK, where it rains all the time.
Yeah.
In the UK, it's never stops raining most of the time. But
Yeah.
here, it's a it's an arid country, but our water bills are very low. I mean,
Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
and the water system's more efficient, I think, here. I mean, in the UK, sometimes you have there's not a lot of there's a lot of problems with the infrastructure and a lot of wastewater. Here,
Yeah.
it's a much greater amount of the water is recycled
Yeah. Very
and
good.
reused and for agricultural purposes and everything. It's much
Yeah.
more efficient in that sense. And our water bills are ridiculously cheap, actually.
Good. Good. Good.
And our energy costs here also, you know, um, are much cheaper.
Yeah.
The UK has terribly expensive. I mean,
Oh, all of Europe.
crazy, crazy. But the UK is the worst.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely. The
mad
Western world's
expensive. Yeah,
become very expensive. Absolutely. Elon,
yeah.
as we wind down real quick, just a couple of notes just before we sign you off. What's an expectation, within Israelis as we see the war? Supposedly there's some kind of ceasefire for now, 12-day war, but there's still some obviously there's some drones attacks within Iran. And there's obviously can't trust the Iranian regime not to do something, but what is the expectation and any prayer request that we can let our viewers know? Like it could be your own personal request or what you see for the nation there.
Well, first, one concern that I mean, it has been expressed. You know, I don't think on the whole. I think there's a sense of dissatisfaction that the Iranian regime hasn't collapsed or been turned over. I mean, um, I hope that it does get finished off, um, because we really don't want it to. I mean, obviously, since the war is well supposedly ended, the regime's been rounding up more people and killing more. They've probably executed more people in the last few weeks than they have done for a while. So it's not toppled yet. That's an area for concern, I think. We don't want to have another war 5 years down the road, or we don't want the Iranian regime to be continuing to fund um, uh, instability and its proxies against us. So uh, so there is a sense of that the job hasn't been finished. I think there's a sense of disappointment there.
Right.
And also even with the thing in Gaza, really, I mean, you know, it, I think it would, personally speaking, be better if we just finished the job absolutely to the very end. And but it just looks like I think that we've been pulled back from doing that. Maybe we're just kicking the problem down the road for another few months, and it'll all, we
It'll
don't
kick off
want.
again. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, we don't want Hamas to start all over again. You've got
Yeah,
to eradicate it and take the roots out. Um,
absolutely. Any prayer requests, both personal and what you see for the body of Christ there in Israel, as well as for the uh, non-believing Israelis.
well, personally, hmm, I would appreciate we would appreciate if if the listeners would pray for my wife. She has some health issues, that
Absolutely.
need some that need to be diagnosed properly. I won't go into great details, but she
No
has,
worries. Yeah.
some problems with abdominal issues and things, and she would really appreciate your prayers, and also really, I think uh, the body here really there are, obviously there's been I've reported, well, at least not always on catching up with Jacob, but I've written about the problems we have over here with the New Apostolic Reformation.
Mm.
That more people here would become aware of it, but and also people would not compromise with it. There's a lot of compromise with false teachings over here, even from people who know better.
Yeah.
They won't name names. They'll still consider some of these people who are coming out with the most outrageous rubbish and false teachings, false prophecies, and goodness knows what else, and they'll still regard them as members of the body, even when they're clearly false prophets. This is something that needs to be there needs to be a sea change in the way that people approach
Yeah.
dealing with false teachers in this country. Really, honestly,
I agree with you.
and absolutely, and also the body would really just grow in, and we'd see an increase in depth, maturity, and in numbers really as well, and
Amen. Praise the Lord for
that's
that.
what we really like to to see. And even in the town where we live, there's really isn't a lot of places where you could wholeheartedly say, "Oh yeah, go there. If you've just come to faith, go there." Really, I mean, our own town here. I mean, there's really nothing that I could say unreservedly, "Go there,"
Yeah.
and it's a shame.
Yeah.
We're not the only place. I mean, that a lot of believers here, there are problems. I mean, that their only congregation, because there's not that many in Israel, maybe full of Narwakos or part of one of the apostolic networks or something. It's actually a problem,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
to find somewhere where you can fit in, because there's absolutely no way. I would get, I mean, if you have any respect for sound doctrine, you would ever go to a congregation that was teaching these NAR things. There's a lot of isolated believers. I
Yeah.
know many.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
All right. Well, those are wonderful prayers. Thank you so much, Elon, for
okay,
joining
Marco.
us. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, letting us know what's going on in
No,
Israel and letting everybody know what's going on in Israel. Thank you for the prayer request, and we'll sign you off. God bless you.
and
Have a
and you,
wonderful
and you
weekend.
all. Okay then. Bye bye and Shabbat Shalom.